Good evening, everyone. Dani here with DoubleBookedCo for our live discussion of Amy Tan's The Kitchen God's Wife. Laura will be with us momentarily. We were having some technical difficulties as we were getting started here, so we're not quite sure on whose end it is happening, but it seemed like it was happening more on Laura's end, so she was going to restart and come back in. So you just let us know in the comments if I am also freezing or glitching out. Just let us know. But beside that, let us know that you're here in the comments by saying hello. Like I said, tonight we will be discussing our February book pick, which is or was Amy Tan's The Kitchen God's Wife. For March, if you're interested in continuing with us or joining us for the first time, we are reading Mandy, which is a middle grade book. There it is. Thank you, Laura. By Julie Andrews Edwards. So Julie Andrews, and then that's her married name, I think is what you said at the time, at least, Laura. And that, like I said, is a middle grade book.
Am I any better? Am I still bad?
Oh, nope. Yep. You were frozen there with Mandy for a while. So we'll see how it goes. No worries. It looks like Andy's here in the comments. Hello. It's nice to see you. Yeah, so if you're interested in joining us for March, that is the book pick, Mandy. It seems like you can get it at your library. I did not see it on Hoopla at all, so it might be more of a physical copy that you either purchase or seek out at your local library. That is how I will find it, is at my library. And I think you own it, obviously, Laura. And then, hi, Pamela. It's so nice to see you. Oh, and Andy already has it. Nice. So Laura's going to be probably popping in and out just to see if her stuff works better. Okay. So tonight's book, as far as our discussion goes, per the usual, when we have discussion questions, they kind of cascade into more discussion. So that's kind of nice, because I realized after I typed out all the discussion questions that they really didn't focus on any of the men in the story. But that's okay, because I think typically when we read, when we discuss certain questions, they end up unraveling in different directions anyways. So I'm not too concerned about us missing anything. Looks like Allie is here. Hello. I hope your workmates don't mind you sneakily doing a live discussion. But yeah, so we'll kind of get into it. Laura will pop in when she can, and we'll have her join us. But as far as what I mentioned about March's book, again, that's Mandy. For those of you who are joining us or are starting to join us, that'll be for March. That we typically do a reading sprint that goes along with that. So that'll be next Tuesday, which is March 7th, and that'll be at 8:30. You don't have to read Mandy during those reading sprints, but typically we will start it. I myself might not start it. It depends if I can get it from my library. My library does have a copy. It's just whether or not I get over there in this next week, because my library is like not where it used to be because it's going through renovation. So they're in a temporary location, and that's like farther away. So I don't know. We'll see if I can get there this week. But anywho, again, Mandy for March. So as we talk about Amy Tan's book that we read in February, That was The Kitchen God's Wife. And from my understanding, it seems like a lot of people really enjoyed it. So we may be reading another of Amy Tan's books, which is the Joy Luck Club. So if you're interested in that, I think there is a separate group that is going to be reading that sometime in the next couple months. So yeah, looks like Laura probably won't be joining us. It looks like the Wi-Fi connection is freezing a lot on her, so it'll just be me. Yay! Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right on into our rating of the book. So as far as how we rate, I always just use the Goodreads scale, and I sometimes will put like a half star on things. But if you were to rate the book, so let me know in the comments, if you were to rate the book from 1 to 5, 1 being not so great and 5 being amazing, what would your rating of this book be? Let me know in the comments. This is typically where when I ask Laura what she thinks, but we'll just go to Dani. I actually rated this book 5 stars. I thought it was excellent. And I listened to this on audiobook, which I think was a really great format for the kind of book it was, because it was Winnie telling her story to Pearl. So to me, it was like an oral history, and what better way to have an oral history but via audio. So I was really happy about that, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was just excellent. I really like these kind of stories, as far as almost like survivor stories, culturally speaking. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I read The Mountains Sing, which is by a Vietnamese author, and it revolved strongly around the Vietnam War and, people during that time, and the difference between, living in the North and living in the South. And it's just amazing, because these stories are stories that you don't hear every day, and you don't realize were happening. Like, for me, I didn't even think about China's involvement in the war and or the impact it had on those people, because I guess similarly to Hitler's regime and his influence on the countries, invading and conquering, or whatever you say, and Japan did the same thing to China. So I guess for me, I don't hear about that very often. So this was a really impactful story for me. So I gave it 5 stars. It looks like Pamela, you gave it 4.5, so very close. Andy, 5 stars from you as well. And this was a reread for you, so that it still had 5 stars is awesome. It looks like Jenna's here with us. Hi, Jenna. Yay. Good. What would you rate it? So you like Joy Luck Club, and now you were really excited to read this. What did you end up rating it? And then our beloved Allie, if I had a star, it'd probably be a 4.5. Little long. It did. I think if I were reading it, I probably would have felt it was a little longer. Yes. So I don't. I can't think of any other story or any other historical fact or anything that I remember or recall, and maybe I'm just not remembering correctly, But like, I don't think about China at all. Like, and it could just be that I missed that portion. I have no idea. But like, when she was going through this, and I'm thinking, of course, like Germany occupied all of these other countries. And I mean, and that's really it saturates the historical fiction genre is, you know, Britain, France, you know, Germany, all these European countries. But I mean, right over my head about China. And when she was going through this and she was like talking about the war, at first I was like, what war are we talking about? And then I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. Like, of course, of course. And so to me, it was just a really impactful story. It actually makes me want to do more research in the nonfiction field of the time. So yeah, and of course for you, Allie, living there, you obviously are, immersed in it. So I mean, please let me know. Are there any nonfiction works that are, approachable, that someone like me who's interested in, the effects of the war on the people, not so much the war politics side, but like how the war impacted the people of the country, please recommend those. I would love to hear what those are, because I'm really interested in that, because I don't recall learning anything like that. So please, if you have any recommendations, let us know. It looks like Jenna gave it 4 stars. But you feel like a tough reader. Yeah, I feel like I'm that too, but sometimes books just blow me away. Let's see, Pamela. I've read other tan books and the characterization was just a millimeter weaker than the others. Sure. I'm actually excited to read Joy Luck Club. It's funny, I think I was telling Laura about this. But I in my head thought I had read Joy Luck Club, and it turns out I had only seen the movie. But I had seen the movie multiple times, enough to think that I had read it. But as I was reading Amy Tan's book, this book that we're reading, I'm like, I don't think I've read, this is not familiar, this writing style. So I kind of opened up Joy Luck Club and I started to like peruse a little bit. I'm like, I did not read this. I have literally only seen the movie. So like my head got so twisted around like thinking that I read it, and I didn't. So let's see here. Allie, read to someone who may carry Chinese, please don't. Oh, no. Masked. Okay, so you can recommend. Oh, yes, please do. So no, that's not, you're not showing off. You are our resident expert, and we thank you for that, because you are an expert in many things. So yes, please, if you do have any recommendations, please pass them along. Yes. There is a movie. It's from the 90s, I think. And it's excellent. It's really good. I mean, from what I can remember, I watched it as a kid, but I remember just loving the movie even as a kid. So it's funny, because I think a lot of the content and the things that they were probably going through probably went over my head as a kid, but I just remember really, really enjoying that movie. So yes, it is working, Laura. So I think we'll just see Laura in the comments tonight. And that's okay. We'll get her next time. Okay, great. So it looks like we got everyone's ratings. Let's go ahead and jump into the first question. So we have the story, and it begins with kind of giving us an idea of this relationship between mother and daughter, meaning Winnie and Pearl. And we hear from Pearl first, really. We kind of get to know her. She has a family, an American husband. She has 2 daughters, and she has MS. and she is visiting her mother, and she's kind of explaining how her mother does things and whatnot. And you can kind of tell there's a little bit of a disconnect here. How does that develop and or change throughout the book? So how does their relationship change? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. What's your favorite? I feel like I have 100 Secret Senses. I think I have that one. And this one, meaning the Kitchen God's Wife, is number 3? Okay. Because I think I have the 100 Senses. I have the Bone Setter's Daughter. I think I have a Drowning Fish something or other. I have like 4 books, I'm pretty sure, of Amy Tan's. So no worries. It's all good. Yes, Laura, let us know what your rating was. Oh, here we go. At least a 4, if not higher. Very good. Okay, so as far as our question goes, my thoughts in this area. So I think for me, as you are getting into Winnie's story, the whole book changes as far as what you're expecting. Because for me, when you start reading the book and you're listening to Pearl talk about these things, you think it's going to be very present tense. You feel like there's going to be a lot of moving action. And then all of a sudden Winnie starts speaking and it's all past tense. It's all her past self. But she's telling it. So they're sitting at a table, or they're going through this story. So in your mind, you're thinking like, what is Pearl's reaction? How is she taking this information? Because it's intense. Like, it is an intense story. I mean, Winnie is divulging more than just the one secret. Like, I feel like the one secret that she feels sets her apart from Pearl, and what she's so afraid of Helen telling, that to me, I'm just like, what does this have to do with anything? And then as she continues, you're realizing she is trying to explain herself in a way that Pearl can understand. She did this as a mother to protect her. And that's why I think she starts with telling her about her own mother. And I think through that, because I think this happens a lot with mothers and daughters, is there's so much unspoken information that happens between mothers and daughters, and even fathers and sons, and just parents in general. There's so much that we keep from our children to protect them, or we feel like they don't need to know that, or it's not things that they need to know. That's our past and whatnot. But I feel in this instance, the fear of someone else explaining your story really led her to, tell her story, divulge her secrets. And boy, that's not what I was expecting. So it's hard to say like that their relationship developed, because you don't really see it, because this is all happening within one conversation. She's sitting down, she's telling the story, and then at the end of the book, you see Pearl re-enter and like, but wait, so who's my father? Like, what's happening? And you come to a place where it doesn't really matter because of what Winnie's done for her, and what her father, which I can't remember his name, was it Jimmy? I can't remember because it's audiobook, what they've done for her. And then she then divulges her secret about her condition. So I feel it definitely strengthened them. And I think if anything, which I was really pleased to see, it strengthens Pearl's like heritage, like linked to her heritage. So I feel like her husband was kind of just like, we're not going to keep that, kitchen god thing. Like, we're just going to throw that away. And she was really like kind of not wanting to do that. And I feel like now she feels a little bit stronger about her culture and what she wants from it and what she wants to do moving forward. So I feel like that really helped too. Let's go ahead and see what y'all have to say. So it looks like Jenna here. Like how Tan depicts compliment. Yep. Relate a lot to it and how she depicts family obligations. Yeah, there's a lot with family obligations, and not only family obligations, but just cultural obligations. And I think you see that a lot when it comes to when the families merge, or like towards the end of the book when Winnie visits Peanut and she brings gifts for her, and Peanut even says like, well, I have nothing for you, but I wouldn't give you anything anyways because I don't do any of that cultural stuff anymore, basically is what she says. And in my head, I'm thinking, then you shouldn't accept it either. Like, you shouldn't accept these scarves that you're going to sell on the black market if you don't believe in any of these cultural, nuances of like bringing gifts. So I thought that was a little hypocritical, but needless to say, we'll move on from that. Yes, Bonesire's daughter saving fish from drowning were threes, and it did not like Valley of Amazement. I don't think I have Valley of Amazement, so that's probably good. Pamela, Pearl understands her mother so much more. Yes, and there's less hostility. So true. There's an understanding. Because there is such a disconnect in why Winnie did things the way she did. And for Pearl, it seemed like she was just like, she's just like that. And she had no understanding of why. So I think that was really nice that now at the end of the book, there is a total understanding of, this is why she does the things she does. And now it totally makes sense. So you got it right on the head. Oops, I lost my place. Let's see. Yep, agree with Jenna. Relationships are complex and interesting. And I think if anyone has seen I want to say it's on Netflix. It's like a documentary with Amy Tan. She talks a lot about her own relationship with her mother. So obviously that's a big trend in what seems like more than one of her books. Pearl, yes, she is the daughter, has a narrow view of her mother, exacerbated by mom's fuzziness, superstitions, clinging to those old home beliefs, loves her, but doesn't understand her. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like they're both hiding huge aspects of their life in order to protect each other. Yep. That is resulting in them not understanding each other as well as they might. Yeah, and I think one of our follow-up questions here coming up talks about secrets and, how secrets kind of take over this book. Everyone has a secret, and how does that affect them? So absolutely. Winnie, yep, she's the mom. Yeah, not to keep that from her daughter, but that experience informs how she interacts with Pearl. Constant worry, fussing, but Pearl doesn't know why. Yes. And I think the biggest thing too is not even just like the war and those things that she had to deal with, but the fact that she lost so many children. I think any mother would be overprotective of her living children. I think Winnie, she lost one before it was born, and it was like right at the end. She lost another as an infant, which that was so sad. Her daughter, that was really sad. Then she lost her boy when he was like 5 from some illness. I was thinking like the plague, like that's what it sounded like, because they were talking about fleas and that kind of thing. And then she mentions like multiple miscarriages due to the violence, or the sexual violence from her husband. So, I mean, who knows how many she's lost? But that alone, I feel like, would drive any parent to be completely overprotective of their existing children. I just can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. Yes. Yeah. That the daughter was just, I had to stop reading for like a day, because I was like, I can't, that was too much for me, because that was just insane, because of the mental impact that he had on that poor baby. Like, she was so young, and she was already, you could already see how mentally fractured she was because of his mental and like physical abuse. Like, I just, that was so sad. Let's see here, Pamela. They're protecting each other, but I think neither of them, they don't want to lose face in front of each other. Yeah. Winnie wants to be the mom, respected elder, the good, healthy daughter. Yeah, they're like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very much putting up that front, like you said, and because they think that's what the other one expects. So like Pearl thinks Winnie expects her to be perfect, and Winnie thinks that Pearl expects her to be perfect, when realistically they're both broken. I mean, everybody's broken. Everyone has something. But instead they just try to keep acting like they're perfect, and by doing so they kind of stay apart a lot. I think Winnie mentions how they're close enough, like physically, geographically, but then she really only calls her for like babysitting or like random things that aren't really, they're not really being that close. So it's keeping them apart by protecting one another. So I definitely think that this story, this divulging of her secrets, definitely broke that barrier. And I feel like the two of them, for the remainder of Winnie's life at least, will be more open about, you know, each other's feelings and all of those things. Woot woot. The plague thing was horrendous. Yeah, that was actually part of a germ warfare strategy, Japanese. Yeah, I wasn't, again, I have no idea. So thank you for saying that. Yes. Okay. So, because I feel like she sent him to the countryside so that he would be protected while she was trying to leave her crazy husband. And then that happens. You know, you send your children off to be protected, and in the end they are the ones that pay the price. And that was just terrible. I mean, it's all terrible. Yeah, it really did. Like I said, I had to stop and like go away from the book for a day. And obviously that's just the beginning of all of it. So yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So I think this really kind of just segues right into a different question that I have as number 4, but we might as well just jump into it because it really just is a follow-up to this question. But that is secrets. So secrets play a big role in the story. They're basically the catalyst for Winnie's whole, sit down telling her story kind of thing, but what effect do they have on the characters and the decisions they make? So it's not just Winnie and Pro. I think I just went away for a second. Let me know if I'm frozen or if you can hear me. But then we also have Peanut had secrets, and now I'm losing my whole train of thought because of that. Anywho, secrets. So tell me in the comments, what do you think about all that? And really, what is Helen's secret? Because I feel like that whole thing with Helen was so confusing in the beginning. So somebody please help me with that. Thank you, Allie. I see I blipped for a second, but I'm back. Okay. So can anyone clarify for me what was Helen's secret? I know that they were claiming that they were related to one another. Was it they were claiming she was related to Winnie so they could get into the country? Is that what it was? So like her secret is that she's not related to her? Like to me that it just seems so silly that Helen thinks that 40 years later it matters. I just didn't get that. So can anyone clarify that that's what that is? Because that was really, I'm not sure that matters. We also have Winnie's mother and her secrets. And I have no idea what happened there. Has anyone have any idea what happened there? Like, I mean, obviously Winnie thinks about it and, you know, gets her own ideas of what could possibly have happened. But do we think like the mother left with a lover? Do we think that she was killed? What happened to her? And why did she not, like, she didn't take Winnie, she didn't leave her anything, she didn't leave her a note. I mean, she chopped off her hair, which to me indicates like she left willingly and was like mocking them because they all loved her hair. Like that's what Winnie had said in one of her ideas. But like, what happened? I'm like, that to me just was a killer. Like, I was like, what happened to her? I don't understand. I legit don't get that at all. Yeah, that was weird. That was very weird. And then, of course, we have Winnie's secret, which is that it's probably 90% probable that Pearl is Wenfu, I think that's his name, his daughter, because of that final scene between the two of them where he rapes her, which is just, I mean, that man. And then to find out that he lives a full freaking life. Oh, I wish she would have killed them. I was really hoping she was going to kill him in that scene, and that was her secret, that she's a killer. And I'm blipping again. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what's going on. But anywho, I'm not seeing any comments come through. So have I been frozen this whole time as I've been talking, or are we good? Oh, there's a comment. There we go. And then what did I just say? Oh, baby brain. I don't remember. But you're confused about the same stuff too. Do you remember that Winnie and Helen met when Winnie was 19 and recently married to Wenfu? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, Allie. I'm not quite sure what's going on. It doesn't show it on my end until I actually blip out and then come back in. So I'm sorry, everyone. Let me think. Well, and then so Winnie's whole thing of the possibility of Pearl being Wen Fu's, which it kind of sounds like she is. I mean, I don't feel like they really ever like stamp it like, yes, you are, or no, you're not. But in the end, I mean, does it matter? Realistically, it's been so long. There's no, yeah. But the thing that gets me is like Pearl not wanting to tell about her diagnosis, because at some point it's going to be more physical. It's going to be more obvious. So it's like, at what point are you waiting for? But I get it. I mean, secrets have been the kind of weaving of this family, so it only makes sense. Winnie kept her mother's secrets and kept her secrets from her daughter, so it's just like a never-ending circle. Pamela, my confusion lies on why Auntie is so condescending to Winnie. She knew how cruel Wen Fu was. Yes! Yes! I mean, the entire story, Helen is like, and I'm assuming that's who you're referring to as Helen, is like so condescending. And she's like not even from like a higher upbringing than Winnie. And she's just like oblivious, so to speak, about everything, and treats Winnie poorly, and is so outspoken in like not a nice way. And then at the end is like, yeah, I knew he was a jerk, but like, whatever. What am I going to do? Is basically what she said. What? And then you want my help to get into the United States? I would have been like, no. Oh, and then here's another secret. Winnie knew that Helen and her husband had nothing to do with getting her out of jail. Nothing to do with it. And yet, for the rest of her life, 40 some years, she lets Helen think that she's been so helpful. So like and Helen treats her like crap, like not crap, but like treats her like, oh yeah, I did this thing for you, so you still have to, like, you owe me one. And Winnie just let her continue on thinking that. And like, I wouldn't make it 6 months letting someone else think that they helped me out when they didn't. If they were treating me like that, I'd be like, okay, let's get something straight here. You have done nothing for me, so you need to put your stuff where your sun don't shine, okay? I want to go a month if you're treating me like garbage. And I feel like she was always treating her like crap. Even like every scene, I was like, why is this lady so mean to her? But anywho, yeah, I don't know. Winnie claimed that Helen was her sister by marriage, so that Helen and her family could emerge. Okay. Oh, found online. Thank you. Yes, that's what I thought, but it was like such an elaborate thing that I was very confused, because it was so, it took up so much space in the book that I felt like it was like you were supposed to know more about it. I don't know. So that's why it was very confusing. It's very confusing. Helen and Winnie, yes. I think Winnie reaped. Helen repped, sorry. Helen has a relative, but all the favor that Winnie owes to, yeah, is, right, which isn't even, it's not even, and she knew it. She knew that they didn't actually help. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Do you think there was resentment? Because I feel like if you resent somebody, you wouldn't help them. You'd be like, well, bye. But I do feel like Winnie does consider her a friend because she did know her through the whole war. I mean, they were together through the whole war. So I feel like she's just being a very good person. She's just being helpful because she could. But you can tell the resentment's at the very end. The resentment, I think, is years and years and years of being put down by someone who thinks they have one over on you. So there's where you're probably referring to the resentment. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, some people do let others walk all over them. Yep. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we all have friends where we hear about things that other people are doing to them and we're like, no. And then you always do the, if I were you, this is what I do. And it's just hard. Like, and I think it's different too. And I think we can all be one of those people where you kind of react or you are different ways with different people, where some people can take advantage of you, or maybe you take advantage of people but you don't know it, kind of thing. But I think Winnie is definitely like, she gets taken advantage of by Helen, but then she kind of is a little bit overbearing on Pearl. So it's like, yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah, so there were a lot of different personalities. And I think the one that I feel like you got the least amount of understanding from was Pearl. For me, Pearl seemed very confused in life, and she's 40. So that stinks for her. But I feel like she was the least, like, you got the least amount of internal thoughts from her, which, I mean, makes sense because it was really Winnie's story, but definitely lots of different personalities. Right. Helen is the catalyst. Yeah, Helen is the one that basically says, oh, I think I just blipped out. There I did again. I think because Helen wants to clear her conscience or whatever, because she's got a brain tumor that she claims she has. She's just like, clean the slate. Just clean the slate. So she gets on Pearl about it, and then she gets on Winnie about it to get them to talk to one another. And then now she's able to pat herself on the back and be like, haha, I'm so good. And I made like a voice there. That's what it sounded like in the book. So like every time I think of Helen, I think about this like high-pitched lady who just sounds like she's like so pure and honest. So that's what that was. One thing that was really strong to me throughout the book was how superstitious Winnie was. Yes. So perhaps her worldview was informed by that, the whole Chinese culture idea of accepting one's fate. Yes, and I think is it Jimmy Louie? Is that what the husband's name is? Jimmy? Anywho, their conversation about fate and destiny was really interesting to me, because aren't those the same thing? Fate and destiny? To me, I feel like that's the same thing. But what do you think? But yes, I feel like you're absolutely correct. Her whole concept and superstitious kind of ways, like with the totems that she sought out and gave to Pearl as well, that she has a lot of cultural ties yet, which is great. I mean, but also through her story, you could tell that she was trying to do things the right way. Yeah, Helen is very, very positive. Yeah, that's true. Elaborate on that. What in Winnie do you feel you see in yourself? That's interesting. Yeah, the husband. Okay, since we were just talking about it, let's go back up to question number 2, which was tradition. So, like, what role does tradition play in the story? It's a big factor. And for me, I forgot about it a lot because I was so focused on. Sorry, I think it's my internet because my baby monitor is like going in and out. So I apologize. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that. This is like a terrible night for technology. But when they talk about the traditions and the biggest point that I remember really talking about is not only when she offers her the kitchen god, but when the dowries are kind of explained and how the passing of money, like you would give it to the family, but then the family would give it back and then like give it to the daughter. And that was very interesting. Like the passing of the money in the sense of these marital dowries. That was really interesting to me because it reminds me a lot of, a woman's status and what their status is before marriage and what their status is after marriage. And to see how her marriage kind of evolved. And then when you hear about the home for all of the women who are getting out of bad marriages and how like what kind of marriages they were like sold into and how deceptive the families were in putting these people together. Just that to me just was the biggest example I felt past the idol was of tradition was just marrying certain status symbols, certain level of families, and then how the money was passed. It was very interesting. Let me see here. I lost my place. Oh, we learned at the end that Helen knew she was dying, so I feel like she showed herself to be more thoughtful. Wasn't dying, excuse me. More thoughtful. She wants them to open up so she finds a way. It was an odd way. But yeah, she got her whatever she needed to get done. Looked up the definitions of destiny and fate, pretty much the same. That's what I thought. So I thought that was interesting that they were like having that conversation. She's like, "Oh no, it's fate," and he's like, "It's destiny." Let's see. When he has a lot of cultural ties that she doesn't pass down to Pearl, perhaps why Pearl feels so lost and confused. Possibly. And I feel like the idea of being American comes up a lot. Especially when Winnie gifts her that box, it was like a treasure box or not a hope chest, but like a secret lock box that she could put like her hopes and dreams in. And it had like a blonde girl on the front because it's an American, like, I don't know if it was like American Girl or like a Barbie thing. And Pearl had colored in the hair and everything, which in most cases. I mean, doesn't look like her, so she made it look like her. But it was, I think Winnie mentions a lot like, you're American, like you grew up here, like you were born here, you are an American, and the father's American, and that kind of thing. So there's a disconnect there. So I thought that was interesting. Winnie very much is trying to stay in and keep the Chinese culture. She goes to all the Chinese stores and like the grocery and all that, and you hear her where she's going and where she's getting things, but Pearl is separate from that. Pearl is an American. So it was that was interesting. So I would agree with you there, Pamela. I think that's why there's a disconnect between them as well. Yeah. The whole, I mean, when she gets convicted or has to go to jail or whatever, and the judge basically just says there's no paper, when you can clearly see this is a man who, there's witnesses. Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, tradition and superstitions, definitely huge themes for sure. And I think too, a lot of the superstitions and the traditions were catalysts and ultimately the trajectory of a lot of the things that happened to a lot of the characters in the book. Things that happened were direct results of a superstition or a tradition that was being upheld. So, or not. Yeah, in prison for leaving her husband and causing her son's death is basically what she was tried for. And the thing is it was all just brought on by this husband who was just like, you're not going to be happy. I'm going to continue to just mess your life up. Like, and then for them to have to trick him and his new wife to sign that divorce decree or whatever, it was insane. And then that final scene where it's like she should have just left, she should have just whatever, but because she did that, that really made him mad. Like, and I'm thinking, like, this man, like, he is insane, and you are alone at your apartment. That was just so terrible. That's so terrible. In China, did all women get to keep some dowry money like this? So different from most places where a man controlled all the money. That question I would not know the answer to, but I found that interesting. I found that very interesting. So that'd be a Google question, or if Allie already knows it, we'll see it in the comments a little bit later. Yeah, so let's move on a little bit. I did have this question. This was my number 3. Like, what effect does Winnie's mother leaving have on her? And I feel like this question's out of place right now just because where we're going. But like I said in the beginning, we end up talking and then it just unravels in different directions. So we can briefly stick on this one for a second. Because like I said, this was a pretty confusing piece. And I think it is meant to be like that because she was so young when it happened. But I think what this does is it sets off her journey into herself almost, because she gets sent out to this island with her aunt and family, and basically grows up a certain way, ends up kind of alongside Peanut, who is kind of a little bit of a rebel, so to speak, who is the reason why Wen Fu is in her life, because she was messing around with him, which, yeah, thanks for that. And then ends up having to marry this Wen Fu, which in the beginning she was so happy, like so excited, and to find out just the kind of man he was is just so sad. But then it's really never mentioned again, other than that she's gone and she doesn't really know what happened. But I think this is why she tried so hard to be so close with her children that she had while in China. You can kind of see the closeness that she has with them. Obviously, we don't see how she is with her children, Pearl, and I can't remember the son's name. But I feel like it's hard to say, like, it affects her, but it also, I feel like it was in a different way. Like, I did she cry? Did she mourn? I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, it leaves her as a Cinderella with a very bad prince. Uncharming. Yeah. Yeah, it sets off a snowball of not great things. That's for sure. And I was so hoping that she was just going to like turn up one day and help her in some fashion, and it just didn't happen. Yeah, probably why she stayed so long. I don't know. Well, she tried to leave so many times, and he just, God, what, wow. It was so unbelievable, but also, like, what rights does she have? What's anyone going to do? People knew that it was happening, and no one was doing anything. She mentioned how many dinner parties where he would say things or make her kneel down and beg him, and no one does anything because they're afraid of him. Like, holy moly, that's intense. That's crazy. Those scenes were really hard. Like, oh boy, you know. Pinjin, bride money. Groom's family would pay dowry to the bride's family. Then the bride's family would return a portion of this money to the groom's family. Then the bride's family would, and I'm assuming there's another message coming, and we'll get that in a second, but this is very informative. So the groom's family would pay a dowry. Okay, here's the dowry to the bride's family. Then the bride's family would return a portion of that money to the groom's family. So the bride... Wow, there's a lot of passing of money. I should like get a diagram. We'll wait for part 2. Yes, it is very interesting. I feel like this is gonna be good. Because, yeah, so they like bought her a bunch of furniture and stuff, which they ended up like just selling. But she kept all them chopsticks, which came in handy later. Okay, so the bride's family would also give a sum of money to their daughter. So really at the discretions of the bride's family. So for poorer families, daughters probably got nothing. Wait for her family to get money. Right. And that's all just tradition. It's just the passing of certain things. Because where that I got confused too was like when the groom's family would pay a dowry to the bride's family, but then the bride's family would return some of that money. So, yeah, weird. But very informative. So thank you, Allie, our resident expert. Let's see here. We already did that. So this question we have been discussing throughout. And so we already know what Helen's role is. She is there to be like, y'all need to tell each other your secrets, and I'm dying, so that's why you need to do it. Because if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. And then we find out that she's not actually dying, which no biggie. But do you think she was right to force Winnie to do that? Do you think it was okay of her to be like, you need to do this or I'm going to do it? Do you think that's right? Do you think that is someone's place to do that? I mean, obviously in the end, it was good. But is it really her place to tell somebody, like, you need to tell them this or I will? Have you ever had that happen to you? Someone do that for you? To you? I mean, obviously there would be a book. I'm sorry if I just blipped. I'm really sad that this is happening to my computer because I have another live show after this. But anywho, I may have to do that on my phone because I really don't want to deal with it. But so what I was saying was for Helen to kind of step in. Obviously, there wouldn't be a book if she didn't. But I also think that you can encourage someone to do something, but I don't ultimately believe that someone should force someone to do something. Like, I don't really believe in ultimatums. I don't really like someone forcing your hand. I am totally okay with somebody like drawing their case and being like, I really think you should do this because of XYZ. Think about that. I think it should be someone's choice to do something. And I just feel really bad that, like, after all of the suffering that she goes through in her entire life, like, then she's got to deal with this lady being like, you tell her I will kind of thing. Like, I feel like she was just like bullied through her entire life. And that just really kind of upset me. So I'm not really a big fan of people forcing your hand. I think, encouraging you to do something is one thing, but like giving you an ultimatum, I don't like ultimatums. Let's see. There are a few big secrets within my family. I know them, but no way am I passing them on while others want them secret. It's too hot a mess. It is. And I don't like gossiping. So I have 3 younger brothers. And from time to time, they all have something to say about the other or vice versa. And somehow I'm always the one that hears about it from them. And I'm just like, I'm not really interested in that. Like, and then sometimes they'll like ask too, like, did so-and-so say something? I'm like, I don't know anything about anything. Like, I'm not interested in any drama. Like, you can be the way you want to be. You can be the way you want to be. I'm not interested. And then my mom likes to pop in and she like wants to know everything that's happening. And I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know anything because it's not my story to tell. It's not my, if something happens in someone's life, they should tell you firsthand. I'm not telling anybody else's information. I don't like gossip, especially in a family. You do what you want to do. Keep me out of it. I'm not saying anything. So, yeah. Tricky one. Honestly, think H may have believed she was doing a positive thing. I think but she thinks that all the time. Everything she does is okay. Trying to bring them closer, but was it the right thing to do? Yeah. See, that's the question. It's a hard one though. 23andMe gives up all the secrets. Yes, it does. That's true. She plays the role of the trickster. Yep. But not a nice one. Until at the end, perhaps she forced Pearl's hand in the hopes of further dividing. Well, maybe, but inadvertently makes them closer. Perhaps, but I feel like because she knew that both of them had secrets, I feel like she was just like, y'all need to air your dirty laundry and then it'll be okay. But I mean, maybe she was maybe she wanted some drama in her life. Maybe pretending to have brain cancer wasn't enough. I think it depends on the secret sometimes. Like if one person is torturing themselves about a thing and the person they're keeping it from truly wouldn't care, then yes, I think it is. It is okay to push or encourage. Yeah. Maybe she pretended to be happy for reconciliation. Yeah. Pretty funny. Yeah, I read it opposite as well. Like she just wants them to get closer together. And maybe she felt like it was they were coming to the end of their life, so they needed to be closer because they should be closer. And I don't know why, but like, okay, so there is a line in the very beginning before she starts her story where she says someone, and I can't remember who because I it's audio, is so and so's like child. And I thought that she said that Helen's son was her son, like Winnie's son. And I thought that was the secret. So the whole time that I'm reading or listening to this story, I'm waiting for her to have a son. And that's Helen and Winnie's secret, that she gave him, like an infant, obviously, to Helen so that she could marry this other man. And I thought that he didn't know anything of all this other marriage. I was so confused for like a little while. And then I was like, I must have just heard that incorrectly. And she must have said like Pearl was his daughter. I was so confused, guys. It was bad. It was pretty intense. I was like, what is going on? Lots of stuff going on in my work in corporate. Yikes. So much unnecessary drama. So dumb and exhausting. Yeah. Yeah. Workplaces are hard to, like, I don't want any drama. And it's hard not to. And the smaller your team is, the worse it is. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Definitely. Okay, so we are past the hour mark. So I think we really only have one question left. And that is really the whole book wrapped up in a pretty little bow. You know, how does this kitchen god's wife totem play a role in the story? And why do you think Tan chose to use this as her title? So in the beginning, Winnie gifts this kind of idol, what is it? It's like I can't even think of the words. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of the words of this thing? But basically what is the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. Baby brain is a real thing, people. It is a real thing. Like it's like a worship thing. Oh my gosh, I can't even think. Anywho, moving on. She gifts that to them, and it's this kitchen god, and then she tells the story of the kitchen god's wife. And obviously through that you realize like that's what the story is going to be about. And Winnie really is the kitchen god's wife, other than, you know, returning kindness to him at the end. And I really wish her husband would have died in the fire, but he didn't. He got to live his life after making everyone else's life a living hell. But I mean, that truly was, it was her story. It paralleled so well, you know. It was terrible. So I think Tan uses that as the title because it's a perfect description of Winnie's suffering. Her whole story is being tied to this man who is a terrible person, and she does all of this work to create a good life, and even when she's being abused incessantly, she tries to be the good wife. She tries to be the good partner, and it just doesn't work out for her. It's terrible, but I think it helps readers really understand the story more when authors have this one little piece of the book that just gives you a complete foreshadow of what the story is going to be about. Let's see. I just know a few people that can kill you with a smile, so I saw that in Helen. Sure, I definitely think you can. I think you have a point there. I do think keeping secrets about yourself from someone can result in there being a remove in a relationship. Being honest can result in a closer, more authentic relationship. But I know it can be hard to be honest, make yourself vulnerable to others, even those you love. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and you see this really often with kids. You know, you hear that honesty is the best policy, but a lot of times honesty really hurts. Like, especially in, you know, relationships where it's a longer relationship and something has been withheld from somebody. It hurts when you find out the truth and you find out that it's been kept from you, that, you know, maybe they didn't trust you to have that information, or, you know, whatever it may be. So honesty is scary to people, and therefore you think, what's better? Letting them go on not knowing this and being happy, or telling them and having the, you know, having that blow up in your face and it making it worse, or like you said, making the relationship end. And when I mention kids, you know, like our 16-year-old, like forever, she's always been a massive liar. Like, it's the first thing that comes out of her mouth is always going to be a lie. And I'm a big, like, I can't stand lying. It is one of my it's like my number one pet peeve. I hate it. It's so annoying. And when you talk to kids and you ask them, like, why are you lying? And it's always because they don't want to get in trouble. Because when you tell the truth, whatever it may be that you did, it's ordinarily something that you shouldn't have done. So you're going to get in trouble for it. So in order to not get in trouble, you lie. So I can see how that would cause issues. But like you said, Allie, you know, being honest, like honesty is the best policy. It makes you more vulnerable, but it sometimes can also bring you closer. And I think, especially in like marital situations, like my husband, a lot, he's like, he doesn't lie like to lie, but like sometimes he'll like withhold information about certain things. And see, I'm like a sleuth. These two, him and his daughter, you two just don't understand like how intelligent I am. That sounds so terrible, but it's true. Like, I catch them in their little devious things all the time. And they both have tells on when they lie. So I'm just like it'll be something silly. Like they'll take something out of the refrigerator that I intended to have for myself, but one of them took it. And I know exactly who took it because I know when people are home and whatnot. And they'll just like lie about it. And I'm just like, I know it was you. So it's just people, I tell you what. But what I was getting at is, especially in marital situations, you're right, Allie. Like, and I'm sure in regular relationships, but the more you are open and honest and you show your vulnerability and you explain that as part of your whatever you're explaining, telling the truth of, being honest about, it does bring you closer together because you feel like you have a shared commitment of understanding one another and being open and vulnerable and whatnot. But it's hard. It's hard sometimes if you have a secret and you're like, I'm not telling that because it's just going to destroy us. So, yeah, I don't know. I talk a lot, guys. I'm sorry. It's probably a bad thing that Laura was not on here because I talk too much. Let's see. I was like that kitchen. God, nobody worshiped her either. He got all the excuses. He got all the credit. She was forgotten. I'm assuming that was straight out the book. So thank you for that. Yeah, I really like Winnie. Like Winnie is, I really like that character. I really like her character. I think she was so strong. Like the chapter that was titled Weak and Strong, I was just like the whole time, I'm like, you were never weak. You were like the strongest person I have ever read about. Like 100%. Let's see. Same on the lying. Yes. I struggle if I have to lie, like not tell my daughter. My partners in the past have been liars, not now that I believe otherwise. Yeah, no, lying is, I can't do it. Like it's so annoying. And that, I think the thing for me is like what they're lying about, like how stupid it is. Like, and with my stepdaughter, it's always like, you're not going to get as much trouble if you tell the truth, but if you lie, you're going to be in more trouble. And she still picks the lie. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this has been the past 9 years. It's never changed. And she always gets caught. She's she always gets caught. But yeah, I definitely, yeah. 100% being honest is scary. It is. But I think there's a difference between honest about something that will only hurt others but make no difference to you, and being honest to be vulnerable or your authentic self. Absolutely. Well said. Ooh, off topic. Speaking of sleuth, there was illegal stuff right outside my house last night, and I reported to police. And now they're here to get more details. So I have top off. Ooh, we can't wait to find out what that's all about. Man, I have the burbs across the street. Allie's got police things happening in China. Oh boy. Oh boy. I can't wait. If you can share it up. But bye. Have a good night. I guess. Is that what you say to someone who just says that? Anywho, so those were all the questions that I had. Any additional topics, let me know in the comments. If there was anything else you wanted to talk about regarding characters, plot, story, anything like that. Like I said in the very beginning, I realized that after I put all these questions up that I really didn't put any questions regarding any of the men. So like Winnie's father, when his husband Wen-Fu, who plays an enormous role in the book, her then second husband, which I think is Jimmy. I can't remember his name. I feel like it's Jimmy, but I feel like that's wrong. I don't know. So I apologize about that, but I think for me, this book is truly about Winnie. And I guess subconsciously, I just really didn't want to talk about Wen-Fu because he just, oh my goodness, like every time something would happen with him, it was sickening. So didn't really want to discuss him any further. Didn't want to give him any more credit. But yeah, let me know in the comments, were there any other topics that you feel like we should have discussed? Jimmy Woo. Yeah, so it was Jimmy. Yeah. Because I think she always called him Jimmy Louie. And she was Winnie Louie. Jimmy Louie. I don't know. I guess I feel like that was something. I don't know, but thanks. But yeah. Let me know in the comments. Yeah, but like I said in the beginning too, like 5 stars overall. I really like the story. I think I read it within like a couple of sittings. So it was nice to like get it in a couple good chunks. I want to learn more about this time in the situation. Like I said, it totally over my head. Don't even think about it. Thing I remember vividly, the two of them killing fleas like a game. Huh. I don't remember that. That's gross. Ooh. I remember when she put bugs in his room when they were living at her father's house. Oh, yes. That was so messed up. I don't even know what to say about that. Like, that was so messed up. But yeah, like just in general too, like the amount of infant death in this book too. Like, so that was an example. We have the miscarriages that she refers to. We have the abortion of the one concubine basically that he had when they were earlier on in their relationship. And it just, it's really sad. Just really sad. Use chopsticks to catch them and pull and mash them. I don't remember that. I remember Helen saying that she was picking up beans or whatever with chopsticks. Like, and that was like the last argument they had before the war ended or something like that. But yeah, I don't remember the flea thing. Huh. I must have fallen asleep during the abortion. Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't sound like there are any other items there. So I think we are going to call it a night. I am at the temporary living house. Yeah, maybe like in the war. Maybe now that's kind of coming back to me. Maybe. Anywho, on my channel, Spinelli Speaks, if you're interested, I'm going to be doing another round of midnight reading sprints, meaning I start at 10 p.m. and I'll go until at least midnight to get some last minute reading in for February before March starts, or if you're just looking to read. But I will be starting those at 10 p.m. on my channel, Spinelli Speaks, if anyone's interested in joining me for some reading sprints and some chit chat. This as a whole, love reading with you guys. I love having these discussions. So sorry that Laura wasn't able to join us this evening. It seemed like both of us had a little bit of technical difficulties. So hopefully next time it won't be so in and out. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for reading along. If you're interested, I think if anyone is in our Voxer group, I know Andy was putting together a different group for reading Joy Luck Club. So if you're interested in that. And yeah, so next month, again, we are reading Mandy, which is a middle grade book for middle grade March. And next week, which is the 7th of March, yes, March already. Can you believe it? We're in the 3rd month of 2023. We'll be reading Mandy by Julie Andrews Edwards. And those reading sprints will start at 8:30. So you can read that book if you want or not. It's really whatever you choose, but we always have some reading sprints during our reading book club thing. Silly. Yeah, no worries. Sounds like everyone liked this one. Yeah, absolutely. This one was a good one. Yeah. There you go. Okay, well, I'm going to call it a night here. And if you're interested, I will see anyone who would like to join in about a half an hour on my channel, Spinelli Speaks, for some midnight reading sprints. But until next week for our reading sprints, we'll see you then and hope that you're having a good week. Bye, everyone.